I'm glad that I put up my Laura Logan video because it gave me some valuable insight into the work that needs to be done in order to set men on the correct path to their own empowerment. My Laura Logan video helped to reveal to me that many MRAs don't fully understand what the concept of gender war is all about and what it fully entails. And in this video I said that if I were to see a woman being raped, I would continue on as if nothing ever happened. And I still stand by that statement unapologetically, and I assert that I'm 100% justified in this line of thought. Now, the fact that I said this must have triggered some innate male protector instinct in many MRAs that the rest of us who actually understand what gender war is all about have eschewed a long time ago. And their main argument was that I'm promoting violence against the entire female gender by saying that I wouldn't risk my life to protect a woman from violence unless she was a member of my family. I think the problem here is that maybe men have not yet started to consider that when women and society at large decided to burden men with the job of selflessly saving women from violence, that this was an act of violence against the entire male gender. The draft was an act of violence against the entire male gender. The gender-selective rescue effort on the Titanic was also, and the expectation that it's a man's duty at great personal risk to himself, his person, and his life to save adult females from violence is an act of violence against men. And all my video does is neutralize that violence that has been foisted on men by advocating an act of non-violent non-action. That's right, refusing to defend women from violence is an act of non-action and therefore cannot be violent in any way. Yet you have feminists and MRAs alike claiming that I advocate rape. You even have one feminist saying that for me to advocate non-action in regards to violence towards women is an admission of rape, which is just another attempt to broaden the definition of rape and another reason why men shouldn't defend women from it. MRAs whining about my stance amounts to the same tired old Nawalt tactics, not all women are feminists, so on and so forth. You simpletons really are starting to tire me. Not all women are fat, lesbian, man-haters that pen scum manifestos on their free time, sure. However, how many women have trapped men via child support and alimony, a form of legalized slavery? How many women are actively speaking out against this type of enslavement? If you were to take the average woman on the street and ask her if she supports child support and alimony enforcement for women in divorce and custody disputes, what do you think she'll say? Most women are feminists by association and approval of feminist doctrine. They are feminists by proxy, and any MRA that says otherwise has failed miserably at understanding the true nature of feminism. Women have used their most desired biological asset, their reproductive ability, to subjugate the men who naturally desire to perpetuate the human race. They have legislated their biological greed aggressively against men in order to use the state to demand more of the myriad of biological assets that men bring to the table, such as productivity, adaptability, ingenuity, and most importantly, the ability to defend the female collective. They've used the trade-off of outdated and breached chivalrous social contracts to obligate us to defend them, while they either abort your reproductive payoff or use it to enslave you with child support, which we all know is just a euphemism for women's support. Now, the ability to defend the female collective is the only biological male quality that, at least as of now, the state cannot force us to engage in the civilian sector at least. And so any true tactician will identify that as a chink in the armor and withhold that defense. It's a planned, non-aggressive sanction that simultaneously empowers men and places responsibility on women's defense right where it should be, on women. Now, I don't want to hear any MRAs whining about honor and principle. We're fighting a gender war because of honor and principle. We should be intelligent enough to realize that people are going to pick and choose very carefully about who they are going to stick their necks out for, and I can guarantee you that the vast majority of women will not risk their own personal safety to stop violence towards men in any way. You're a man in an MRA, so start acting like one. Identify with us as an in-group, not feminists and not women, and try to attain a level of awareness higher than the utopian REM sleep that you've been living in if you think that men and women aren't at war with each other. Men and women are in direct competition with each other. And I'm going to say that again. Men and women are in direct competition with each other. We are competing for resources, healthcare, education, our children, our money, our legal equality, and our freedom. And yes, women are doing this of their own volition. Some MRAs say, well, isn't the state the real enemy? Women are being manipulated also. They suffer from feminism as well. And my response to that, if it weren't for the need to explain this as best I can, would be who cares whether or not women are victims? This is a men's movement, so we will concern ourselves with men's issues, period. This isn't some fantasy reality where men and women are going to get together and sing Kumbaya and forget that feminism ever happened. Once again, women have acted as a collective against men for the better part of 60 years. But let's explore this whole women are victims too pussy pass mentality that a lot of so-called MRAs have. Now, I use the example of a pit bull and its master. If he sicks his pit bull on you and you have a gun in your hand, will you then use that gun against the pit bull even though the pit bull is only following the wishes of its master? Does the fact that the pit bull cannot comprehend what it's doing make the pit bull any less of a danger to you? Such an example only partly illustrates what's going on in the gender war between men and women and the state. The pit bull is blindly following an order from its master. It's a pawn, a tool incapable of reasoning. Women, however, were only given the opportunity to attack men, and they possess all the powers of reasoning of a fully functional adult human being. In the last scenario, the pit bull is a tool that the master used with malicious intent, whereas women were given the tools with which to attack men and left to their own devices. They willingly chose to attack men. They actively sought and lobbied for laws that made it easier to attack men and harder for men to defend themselves. They, since the very beginning of modern feminism, have acted not as innocent pawns that were manipulated into committing acts of evil, but as willing collaborators that used the promise of preferential treatment over men from the state as a means of attacking men. So my question is, when exactly will men fight back, and why exactly does the mere suggestion of breaching our part of the already defunct social contract by placing the responsibility of women's safety on the shoulders of women lead inexorably to a disingenuous and thoroughly disgusting marathon of white knighting on the part of self-professed MRAs, calling for obligatory male defense provisions for women? Don't give me that "it's not about saving women, it's about honor" bullshit. Women haven't acted honorably for almost 3 times longer than I've been alive. Fuck that. Take that apathetic, traitorous garbage somewhere else. Like my fellow MRA Richard Rich said, the men's rights movement isn't some sanctimonious Justice League. MRAs don't have the right to interject their selective, gender-based morality into this movement. We're focusing purely on men's issues, men's rights, and the empowerment of men. How exactly will telling men to risk their lives to save women from violence help to achieve this? It won't. And in a society where men are still going to be considered rapists no matter what we do, there is no reason to help a woman out of a violent situation up to and including rape. Due to rape shield laws and the fact that they violate the right to face your own accusers, a man cannot receive a fair trial when accused of rape, and therefore there's no reason to ever convict a man of rape. These are the harsh realities of the gender war. We will not give economic opportunities to women. We will not hire them to any jobs. We will reserve that position for a qualified and competent man to combat discriminatory affirmative action laws against men. We will never spend money on relationships between men and women. We will reinvest that money into our own individual male interests to combat the economic warfare that women and the state have instituted against men. We will assess the weak points of the partnership between women and the state, and we will exploit it and fight against females and the state. Now, are there females that have earned the right to call themselves men's rights advocates and activists? Sure there are. Women like Erin Pizzey come to mind, absolutely. But it's time we start fighting fire with fire. A group of people that insists on the defense of another group of people who have attacked them mercilessly for decades is not acting honorably, it is acting stupidly. Men as a collective should never be hesitant or even ashamed to take drastic measures to fight feminism. And that's all I really got to say for now.
You know, I find it ironic that the tool of feminism and the feminists that employ it is by far the most odious form of oppression, not just for men, but for women as well. Now, don't get me wrong. Men suffer far more under the iron curtain of Marxist feminism, but for some odd reason, women seem to be more miserable than ever. And that's because the worst thing Western women could have done is to bog themselves down in the tar pits chasing the feminist fantasy that speaks to the very worst parts of the female psyche. Indeed, the entire reason that women have been such a privileged class throughout history is because only the good parts of her nature were displayed openly in society for everyone to see. Feminism, for the first time possibly in recorded history, has allowed Western women to show their true nature, and it's the worst possible thing they could have done for themselves because now the physical beauty of women comes as a double-edged sword of documented and well-known unbridled greed, manipulation, and toxicity. And not since the days of Samson and Delilah have men been so keenly aware of the destruction and havoc women can visit upon them. And so now, women can no longer fetch the admiration and devotion of men in any meaningful way. Men aren't amazed amazed or awestruck when we look at women. Men are suspicious and cautious and frankly want as little to do with women as possible. And when men want as little to do with something as possible, we strip down our interaction with it to the necessities, which means that men generally only want to be around women for as long as it takes to fuck them. And feminism and the women who practice it are to blame, not men. Feminism made women absolutely unbearable to be around and impossible to form lasting bonds with, and so by default, men categorized you as nothing but the very sex objects feminists claim the patriarchy labeled you as. That's why the Western woman is so intent on making sure everybody notices her outfit that show just enough ass and tits for plausible deniability. At work, on the street, in the supermarket, at the DMV, at Blockbuster, and everywhere else. Because sex is all they are. They have nothing else. Ass and tits and painted up faces that make them look like clowns and heels that make them look taller than what they really are. That's all they have left. Now, some of the more perceptive Western women are starting to realize the size and scope of the trap they've been tricked into laying for themselves, but it really doesn't matter whether they see it or not, because for the first time, men are on the precipice of adopting a line of thought that sticks a collective middle finger in the faces of Western femdom as a whole and tells them that this time, you're digging yourselves out of your own mess. The manginas that haven't figured out how much the very women they grovel to despise them aren't going to save you. You may have government catching you with their safety nets, but in reality, all they can really do for you is throw more money at the symptoms of your misery. The feminist governments in the West are so good at hiding the fact that they're such a huge part of the cause of the Western woman's sickness that she believes government to be the cure for it. The Western skank isn't going to be saved by the hordes of doctors scripting her more antidepressants than ever, and she isn't going to be saved by going to church and expecting men to believe that that makes them somehow cleansed of the stench of the long list of men in her past. God may forgive your degeneracy, but men still know what you are, what you've done, and more importantly, who you've done, so you'll have to excuse us if we really aren't in the mood to accommodate reformed whores that want to be housewives. But even more than that, men don't even want housewives anymore. Because after a half-century of feminism, the only real result I can see is that women have lost their luster and retain only a fraction of the appeal they held in the days of fabricated oppression and patriarchy. And the worst part for them is that the fraction of appeal they've managed to hold on to, i.e. their pussies, depreciates in value with age and with use by other men. It's truly a sad state of affairs for Western women, but I can't say I really feel sorry for them, and that's because there's a new species of man emerging from the primordial ooze of the gender war, the post-feminism man, a type of man that terrorizes feminists because he refuses to serve, he refuses to bow, and he does what he wants to do. The post-feminism man isn't worried about pleasing women because he sees any woman that isn't pleased with him as insignificant. He has a hair-trigger mechanism ingrained into every fiber of his being that simultaneously and reflexively identifies and detaches him from any female he's involved with that gives him even one iota of feminist bullshit. He doesn't uphold, maintain, or pursue relationships. He's seen enough relationships to know that the ship is sinking. He isn't a partisan. He understands the futility of believing that the White House or the halls of Congress or Parliament or wherever his politicians conduct business are anything other than the ground zero epicenters of feminist power and influence. The post-feminism man is a nice guy, thug, a bad boy, or an educated man, or whatever. He isn't concerned with providing for or banging child support-obsessed baby mamas, and he recognizes these two groups of men as nothing more than two warring factions of men grandstanding and vying for access to used-up pussy. He's not a race, he's not a sperm donor, he's not an ATM machine, or anything else. The only thing that the post-feminism man irrefutably is and will be is what he's always been, just a man, ready and willing and fully equipped to withstand and confront Marxist feminism on all of its fronts.
Because a lot of men just don't get it. You know, we have a lot of white knights and manginas out there, and, you know, you guys know how it is. So basically, you know, most of the time you have to self-center because you don't want to start World War III for expressing your male sovereignty unapologetically. But he actually brought it up. So I was like, okay, you know, let me see where this guy is in his path to male freedom and sovereignty. And so he starts talking about not wanting to be a provider workhorse for women, and how he is not going to take all these high-level calculus and physics classes and you know, become an engineer just so in the end he can lose it all in divorce court to some greedy woman when the missus decides to rake you over the coals in divorce court. And I'm just like, cool, you know, it's good to hear you say that. You know, a lot of guys don't think that way, and I'm pretty much just telling him that I agree, and you know, I admire his position. And so out of nowhere, he asked me, well, a lot of the stuff that I'm saying now, I actually learned it from watching this guy on YouTube, and his name is Barbarossa, and I'm just like, I am Barbarossa, and he didn't even believe me at first. So I actually logged into my my YouTube account and showed him that I am the owner of this account. So it was just a crazy thing to see. Somebody in my school, on campus, that actually listens to my video, that had no idea that I was this person posting the videos, and it was something. It was a good feeling to actually see somebody implementing the type of advice that I give. Actually implementing into his life the advice that I dole out. Because these days you need two levels of education. For those of us who decide to go to school for real, tangible, applicable science and math-based curricula, it's always good to have something like that. But you need a second education, that being how to maneuver through and properly navigate the climate of misandry that we are under in the Western nations. It's important to educate yourself on both of these spheres, because if you have a great job but you don't understand how easy it is for a female to steal from you, legally steal from you, and to enslave you via child support and alimony and all that kind of stuff. If you don't understand that, then you're just a moving target, a juicy one. These women will zoom in on you and they will destroy you. Quite literally, they will destroy you. The suicide rate shooting up isn't an accident. A lot of these men, they end up starting out good careers, on top of their game, and then the right woman comes along, says the right thing, fucks him the right way, and all of a sudden he's broke, and his children are gone, and his house is taken, and she's moving into boyfriend, and she took his self-respect and dignity and money, and they really don't have anything else to live for at that point, so they kill themselves. It happens all the time. But I guess this rant is pretty much just me saying that people are getting it, specifically men. A lot of women are understanding as well the damage that feminism has wrought, but to be honest, who gives a shit about women? This is a channel for men and men's rights and men's issues and men's empowerment. So if women derive some sort of learning experience from what I say, then great, I'm not against that. But this channel isn't for you. This is for my fellow men. And I guess this is just a status report from behind enemy lines. We were on campus, so you know how universities are centers for cultural Marxism and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's a status report from behind enemy lines, is that there are some men that are starting to see this for what it is, and are starting to wake up and resist the system. And this is what I'm talking about. We are in a gender war, and in this war, we are launching a siege warfare effort to take back male sovereignty, to resist the 60-year-long exercise in male expenditure, spearheaded by the feminists and the forces of misandry and chivalry. And we are taking back our male identity and sovereignty, and it feels great to see other men do it. And we will own our manhood once again. We will have a male identity again, and we will do so unapologetically. And anybody that stands in our way is going to be crushed underfoot, because we will not tolerate failure under any circumstances. This is a battle for male identity and male sovereignty. So basically what I want to say in this video is to my fellow men. Remember that you can navigate this society. You can successfully maneuver your way through this society unscathed by the forces of misandry. You can. It is possible, and people are doing it. I'm doing it. Other men are doing it all over the world. And I also want to say, and I don't think this has actually ever been said up until right now, but I just want to say that what we are doing, what this men's movement is doing, is good, and it is righteous, and we have the truth bolstering up, our side of the coin, so to speak. We have the truth behind us. What we are doing is right and good, because all we are struggling for is to live life independent of female provision. We don't want it anymore. We reject it through in and through out. We are done. You know, the parasitism that has been the last 60 years has finally sucked men dry for so long that we cannot stand for it anymore. And it is time to remove the tick. It is getting to the point where our motions are so restricted. You know, our development is so restricted by this blood-sucking leech that we are finally getting to the point where we are going to extricate the leech. It's going to be a long and rigorous process, but it will happen. It will happen. The tipping point is approaching, and that's all I really got to say about it for now. The internet is currently abuzz with the episode of Teen Mom in which Amber Portwood, after being threatened by her fiance Gary with being reported to Child Protective Services for her negligent parenting, proceeds to have a complete and utter meltdown in front of an entire MTV camera crew and consequently in front of the world. What follows can only be described as a completely unprovoked and unwarranted, sustained physical attack from Amber, the woman, onto her fiance Gary, the man, all in front of their toddler baby girl. Now, a more complete and damning piece of evidence for the capacity of women to become extraordinarily violent would be hard to find. And what angers me the most was that had her fiancé defended himself from any of the multitude of punches and kicks that this excuse for a mother threw his way, he would have immediately been put in handcuffs and carted off to jail. Just another wife beater, lock him up for even daring to raise a hand to a precious innocent woman. But I can't help think to myself what a valuable piece of footage this is, because what we're seeing here is the toxic woman in her element. She thrives off this. Her claws are out, and her complete and irrefutable disregard and abandon for her own child and the father of that child simply is not up for discussion. You can throw a dictionary of misdirection and shaming language at this and it'll still be a shining example of feminist hypocrisy. Feminism cannot explain away this red-handedness. It's a perfectly accurate picture of the type of abusive, psychopathic behavior that the Western feminized woman believes is her birthright. Now, I've linked the video for everyone to see and watch. You should, because it's 100% apparent that this baboon is only hitting this man, who happens to be at least 150 pounds heavier than her, because she understands that the full force of the domestic violence apparatus and society at large will either seek to protect her and reinforce her behavior, or will explain it away with any number of unreal types of victimhood clemencies and pardons women and white knights demand from society. As a man going his own way, if it wasn't for the fact that there was a child present at the time, I would have particularly enjoyed the sight of the fiancé pulling back and clocking this piece of trash with some unapologetic and completely justified self-defense. But such is the reality we live in, where a woman can kick, punch, and attack with impunity, and a man should just sit there and take whatever verbal and in this case physical castrations that creatures like these decide to dish out. Now, some will say that this is the nature of women, that if you let a woman walk all over you and you back that up with the state, then the result will be women like this, and that we can't fault them. It's just their biology. It's just how they are. I say no. No. I refuse to accept biology as an excuse for the betrayal that Western women have committed against men. And I don't accept that you can't fault them for their deceit in the divorce courts and their subjecting men to slavery. I don't want to hear that you can't expect women to reverse millions of years of evolution. I mean, it just amazes me how men will continuously try to justify and apologize for women's behavior. The evolutionary pussy pass is just the newest manifestation of this. You can't blame them. It's what they were programmed to do over eons of natural selection, blah, blah, fucking blah. What I say is that if women can't be blamed for their destructive biologically induced behavior, if it's expected for women to act like self-serving thieves, liars, weaklings, and abusers, then we should immediately repeal their right to vote and any and all freedoms afforded to them. People who can't function above a base biological instinct aren't human beings anymore. They're monkeys. They're animals. If, however, we can come to the agreement that women can indeed function at a level beyond evolutionary impulse, then they must collectively face responsibility for the destruction they have wrought for the past 60 years. They must be held responsible, and a man going his own way will not see it any other way. And therefore, women like this, women like Amber, should be reviled by all men who are for the men's movement. It's just that simple. And to all of the women listening to this, if the shoe doesn't fit, then don't wear it. I'm sick of your subconscious affirmation of my claims about women every time you come on my page and tell me that not all women are like this. Of course, not every single woman is like this. But stop trying to make the irregular regular. We know damn well what you're trying to do with that nonsense, and instead of pointing out the criminal, evil, and disgusting behavior of your own gender, you would rather come on my page and try to foment a false view of reality that affixes this behavior to some small fringe of women, when we all know damn well that most of you in the West are like this to some degree. I mean, maybe not to the point where you're prone to all-out physical violence, but with the destructive power that the divorce, child support, and alimony courts wield, we both know that physical violence isn't even needed, and it isn't even the worst part about what women have devolved into here in the West. Women that I truly have seen not to fit this description get the utmost respect from me, so go waste somebody else's time. Men going their own way aren't buying that bullshit. Now, back to the subject at hand. Men should take a good hard look at what transpired in this video, and then seriously ask themselves whether or not they want to cohabitate with a woman. Now, I'm not going to try and tell men not to have children, because the drive to reproduce isn't something I think men should shun, but think long and hard about just who, or in cases like these, what you choose to have children with. Watch this video, study this video, and memorize this video, because every last one of you is only one night of bad decision making away from being the fiancé in this video. Protect yourself. And the reason more men don't put these criminal women in jail for their behavior is because they see this behavior as generally being harmless. Most men aren't going to sustain any lasting physical injury from the punches and slaps of a woman that is half their size, but men seem unable to understand that the inability of her to cause a lasting physical injury doesn't take away from the fact that she intends to cause injury. She wants to inflict pain. So wisen up, because this is the very reason that women are more likely to use weapons. Next time, it might be a knife or a frying pan she belts you in the face with, and that time it won't be so harmless, will it? Prosecute these women to the full extent of the law, and let it be known from the beginning that if she puts her hands on you, you will make her pay in every way possible. And that means legally, and if you have video evidence like in this case, where it's indisputable that she's attacking you, then make her pay physically as well. Nobody has the right to put their hands on you. Probably every man hearing this could step outside and shove another man, and what'll happen to you? You might get punched, you might get jumped, you might even get shot. So in this equality-obsessed society we live in, women need to learn that they better keep their hands to themselves. I want to also add this. When the communal hoe, Snooki on Jersey Shore, got punched in the face by a man, MTV refused to play the scene and took it upon themselves to place domestic violence messages at the end of each time that episode aired. The fact that this did not happen in this case tells you all you need to know about the so-called equality in the domestic violence industry. Now, I'm not saying this because I think that broadcasting a 5-second anti-domestic violence clip at the end of this disgusting behavior is in any way a common-sense approach to correcting the actual problem. I'm just saying that considering that the so-called epidemic of domestic violence is played on TV as entertainment for the transfixed masses, and 5-second anti-domestic violence clips at the end of these episodes is the most our society can belch out in an attempt to explain away our perversion and fetish with the very thing that our society claims to be trying to eradicate, then the fact that society won't even muster up enough self-deception to trick themselves when it's domestic violence committed against a man should speak volumes about the opinion our own society has of men. I don't even like to use the term domestic violence, it's so saturated with feminist indoctrination. Feminism is now entering its inevitable death. And that's all I really got to say for now.
A woman will choose, instead of actually physically raping a man, to destroy him from the inside out. Now, you must first understand that women thrive off of male energy. A young, healthy, single man full of potential and energy is the most powerful force in humanity, and this is why all of our matriarchal Western society is designed specifically to distract and eventually destroy or mentally enslave men. We're given these outlets as excuses for our oppression and then tricked into considering ourselves manly for following orders. So I'm going to say this. Watching football does not make you manly. Watching sports does not make you manly. The sports industry capitalizes on men's never-ending desires to improve and compete. However, it is just another diversionary outlet for channeling male aggression and power into an arena that doesn't threaten our governments and Western women, the two biggest enemies of men. Drinking and constant partying also does not make you a man. This is just another aspect of how men are anesthetized and oppressed. It distracts us from our servitude. Get drunk, get laid by some communal whore at some seedy cesspool bar or club that you frequent, and maybe some of us will actually learn to love our servitude.
Men have nice cars, not because they like nice cars, because they know women like nice cars. That's how it goes. Because men are hunters, and the car is the bait. And a woman comes and says, ooh, nice Porsche. Catch it, bitch.
Having a nice car and a huge house is not a sign of wealth or manhood. Unless a man actually acquired these things for himself, but let's face it, what man goes out and buys a Mercedes or a Ferrari and a 4 or 5 bedroom house for any other reason than attracting some materialistic Western whore that's all but making you sign a divorce paper the moment she meets you? And this is how the Western succubus rapes. She, with the help of this wicked, anti-male, satanic, yes, I said satanic government, tricks you into not even realizing that you're going to work 2 or 3 decades on average just to end up giving a substantial portion of the wealth you acquire to some greedy leech who spent years by your side convincing you that she's supplying you with loyalty, when in fact you're just getting the toxic isomer of prolonged, cold, calculated, and devastating deception. And once you realize that the hooks are in, they're in so deep that it causes just as much damage and pain to rip them out than it does to leave them in and pretend they aren't there. Either way, you end up neutralized, a non-male, a non-entity, a eunuch, and a domesticated dog. You have no polarity, no electricity, no power, no teeth, no sting, and no bite. Just the constant muddled whispers of what the fuck just happened to me. Well, I'll tell you what just happened to you. You just got raped. Avoid being raped. 1. Learn to go indefinitely without pussy. Now, I've said this before, but until you do so, you're not a man. Now, when I said this, I got a bunch of people messaging me back saying, well, you know, we need pussy, so we might as well take it. Look, I understand where you're coming from, but this is not the attitude that we need. When you learn to go indefinitely without pussy, you'll find that you can function at a level you have never even thought possible. A whole new world of opportunity will open up to you. And remember, I didn't say not to enjoy pussy when you get it. I just said that if you find yourself in a situation where a woman is trying to control you with her pussy, resist, reject, and remove yourself completely from your dealings with this evil extortionist. 2. Educate yourself by any means necessary. And whatever you decide to do, master your craft. If you go to school, get into a man's major that is immune to feminist brainwashing. Math will never change because women are bitching. Neither will chemistry, physics, microbiology, or welding, or machining, or mechanics, or engineering, and architecture. Get into these trades. Get into the hard sciences. History, English, women's lib, African American and Latino studies, or any other ethnicity-based majors are not considered worthy of the massive expenditure of time and energy you need to become successful. These topics of study can be researched and investigated on your own time if you find them interesting. 3. Start selecting the women you are cautiously, emphasis on the word cautiously, considering entering a relationship into a relationship with for character traits instead of physical beauty. Now, I'm not saying to date a girl that you find physically repulsive because attraction is important to men. But what I'm saying is that that looks should no longer be the most important factor in selecting a mate. Now, it's said that men are always chasing after physical beauty because the most physically beautiful women are the ones who are most likely to produce the most healthy babies. However, any biological impulse can be overridden, and we have to also take into account that at least in Western society, the most physically attractive women tend to also be the most greedy, superficial, and self-serving. These qualities negate any genetic or biological advantage that your children will have, with the fact that if your potential children aren't aborted by this harpy, they'll be used as bargaining chips against you during the divorce, and the divorce will come. And even if you don't marry her, she'll still use your children as a bargaining chip in order to extract child support from you. So advantage for your children, my ass. we're going to have to launch a campaign of genetic warfare on the Western whore. Only breed with women who display time and time again that they adhere to a team framework in which the children that you guys have, are the #1 priority. And even with this, you have to be extremely cautious. And lastly, we have to recruit other men and help only those men who we see displaying the adequate amount of consciousness and desire to break free of the system. If they want to remain slaves, then let them. However, if you see someone that is exhibiting mangina behaviors because, in your opinion, he simply just doesn't know any better, and you can see that with the proper amount of education and constructive criticism and even ridicule, you can get him to wake up, then at least try. At least try once. The unclouded eye is better no matter what it sees. And so even though most of us walk around feeling like we're on another planet, we are alive and awake, we are sentient and conscious, and we are certainly not the castrated eunuch non-entities that walk amongst us every day. We are the outcasts, but only because we have cast ourselves out. We recognize each other instantly because sentience is unmistakable to those who contain sentience within themselves. But as of right now, we're relegated to finding each other outside of YouTube via random encounters. But this is going to change, and it's going to change soon. I'm done talking. Good night, God bless.
I want to address the Costa Concordia incident, which involved a cruise ship sinking off the Italian coast after it hit a rock and began listing severely. Namely, I want to address the article in the description box, which the clear subheadline reads, quote, "Survivors tell of panic as men ignore order that women and children should go first and passengers fight to get on boats," end quote. The implication in the headline being the question of where was the chivalry. My answer? It's in the same place all the real men have gone to. You see, chivalry is history now, and for the better. And those men trained to sacrifice their lives for women are going extinct and are not coming back. For now, it still takes the prime biological directive of survival to kick in before men start openly acknowledging the inherent misandry of this bullshit social contract that allows women to do and say whatever they want, yet still requires men to embrace a watery grave so that the precious women may live. No more, though. To anyone listening to this, I'm going to make it abundantly clear. Men are in the current state of affairs flirting with the crazy idea that male life isn't expendable anymore. And that is what you are witnessing in the Costa Concordia incident. Those cruel patriarchal bastards have gotten it into their heads that voluntarily dying because they are the wrong gender isn't honorable or manly or admirable, and so they've decided to oppress women by refusing to die on command for women they don't know or care about. Perhaps feminists can lobby Congress and make it illegal not to drown on sinking ships unless all the women are off first, but for some reason, I suspect that those men and boys, the evil, violent proto-rapists they all are, aren't going to be law-abiding citizens when a situation presents itself. Sarcasm aside, my point is to tell as many people as possible that male sovereignty is coming, starting with the refusal from men to degrade themselves into thinking that female life is more valuable than male life. You know, when you're watching the news and some reporter talks about how some convenient idiot has made the so-called ultimate sacrifice for his country, you notice how that convenient idiot is always a he and never a she? That's what this ultimate sacrifice really is, one of male blood for female security at the altar of chivalry. And that, as men see less and less reason to defend a country that increasingly marginalizes them, that's going to go away too. And this isn't a warning, it's a statement of fact. This is going to happen, whether or not women want to, quote, return to traditionalism or not. It's going to happen whether women want to show us that they want to be submissive again or not. It's going to happen whether women want to stay at home and raise the kids again or not. Whether or not women want to go back to playing house amounts to nothing but a repugnant, disingenuous, fake peace offering designed to trap men into being the same servile, domesticated fodder they've always been. And it is an agreement that men do not want anymore. Because you see, in this supposedly equal society, the fact that women would have the nerve to surreptitiously exploit male chivalry in such a shameless and blatant manner is an act of gender war, to which I respond by highlighting the particularly disgusting attempt at shaming men who wouldn't give up a seat on the lifeboat for pregnant women. What disgusting cowards, what lack of respect for a woman, and especially
especially for the defenseless unborn life growing inside of her. A real man, even under imminent threat to his own life, should surely protect a mother and her unborn child. That's what real men do, right? Right? Except that the feminist industry has, of course, used the concept of women's health and the threat to the life of the mother to justify an abortion industry comprised 99% of abortion for convenience. The future is one in which men will choose, on their very own, who they would die for, if in fact they choose to die for anybody at all. Women can either embrace a future devoid of male disposability or reject it and fight it, but either way, trust me, either way, it will arrive.
In regards to the incident that happened in McDonald's, and it was recorded on video, and it's now going viral on YouTube, where two lesbian women, that's what they were, two lesbian women, wanted to attack this man that was working at McDonald's for whatever dispute it is that they were having. And the video starts after the dispute has already taken place, and it kind of just fast forwards straight to the violence. So I don't know exactly what happened, but from what I understand, these two women had a disagreement with the McDonald's employee. They then reach over the counter and slap him, and jump the counter, you know, because a lot of these lesbian women, they think that because they're trying to emulate men, and that's what lesbians are doing, trying to emulate men. They believe that because they are trying to emulate men, that somehow confers onto them the same strength and physical abilities that a man would have. So they hop the counter, and, you know, well, first they slap him, and unprovoked, you know, because the video clearly shows that this man never touched them, never put his hands on them. There was an argument, and they took the first... They struck the first blow, so to speak. They attacked this man first. They put their hands on this man first in violence. The man then goes to the back area and gets what appears to be a lead pipe and proceeds to beat the living crap out of them. And you know, so the news stations are reporting this as a savage attack from a McDonald's employee onto two customers, when the video clearly shows what really happened is that these two women, because, you know, and I suspect that this is because they are lesbians, these two women are portrayed as the victims, even though they clearly initiated the attack. The point of this video is to now instruct women, or try to give you some kind of fair warning, because, and don't get me wrong, I detest violence. You know, there's nothing good about what happened here. Violence isn't good. But the man reacted as though he should have. He reacted in a way that proved, you know, a lesson that people learn over and over, and specifically men and boys learn at a very early age, is that if you put your hands on somebody, you better be prepared to fight them, and that person might pull out a lead pipe or a gun or a knife and, you know, make short work of you. So if you're going to go around putting your hands on people, and you know, this is something that should be expected, because remember, women, that you wanted independence, you wanted, you know, you took chivalry as an insult, that kind of stuff, and, you know, you wanted to break through that glass ceiling, so on and so forth. You want to be treated equally. This is what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know if you didn't expect this kind of behavior to eventually result from demanding this different treatment, this equal treatment. You know, I mean, I don't know why it's a surprise that when women start to become violent towards men in an age where they demand to be treated equally, that they start getting hit like men when they initiate the violence first. So this is me just trying to warn women, without any sort of threatening language or anything like that. I'm just trying to simply tell you that in this day and age, you will find less and less men that will tolerate you putting their hands on them in anger or violence. If you can't understand that, then you'll just have to learn the hard way like these women did. Of course, you know, it's very likely that this McDonald's employee will be charged with a crime, probably even a hate crime, because, you know, we can't piss off the gays by, you know, not tolerating them going out and randomly hitting people while they're trying to make a living. But, you know, that's probably what will end up happening. And, you know, it's a shame that In this country, you can't defend yourself without being charged with a crime, depending on who is attacking you. This is why I resisted and made videos against all of these special hate crime legislations for race and for, I hate even using this term because it's so saturated with PC, but, sexual orientation and all that kind of stuff. You deserve no special treatment. This is the result of these sacred cow laws that create an environment where certain people that want to bully other people, that are members of these special members of society that are extra protected, they feel emboldened to do whatever it is they want, and people are scared to check them. And what happens when you end up messing with the wrong person, or hitting the wrong person, or putting your hands on the wrong person, is just one of them will eventually flip out and kick the living crap out of you. And to be honest, the man did nothing wrong. I detest violence. I really do. But if you put your hands on people, you're going to get beat down eventually by somebody who's not afraid of you or your special protections that society has unfairly applied to you. And this is why I don't trust all of this so-called, oh, gays just want to be treated like everybody else. No, it's not the case. What happens is they want to be treated better than everybody else, to the point that they feel that it is their entitlement to go around and bully people. And that's the most dangerous bully. That's the most dangerous kind of bully, the one that feels that society will facilitate their bullying and knows it, and then goes ahead and pretty much tries to humiliate and degrade people, knowing that society will back them up. This is why I don't support any type of chivalrous legislated benefits to women. I don't support any so-called equality for gays or whatever, and I don't even support any advantages given to any specific race. The only way things are going to straighten out in this society is if we start living in a true meritocracy where, people keep their hands to themselves unless they're ready to really fight, where the best man or woman gets the job, so on and so forth. Equality under the law, that is what's been suggested on this channel over and over and over again. This will probably also be spun as a racial issue, but you see, that's the beauty and the hypocrisy of these affirmative action laws. You see, this time it can't be said that some racist white guy was just being racist for beating the crap out of these women, because the guy who defended himself was a black man. So there you go. You can't affix this behavior to any sort of racism unless the man was racist against himself. And to be honest, the guy was just trying to make a living. And you know what's funny, when you start to see all this go down, these tough women, all of a sudden they're screaming like children, panicked, don't know what to do, and all they can really do is just stand there instead of if they really want the violence to stop, why don't any of them step up and try to put a stop to that violence? Even though the man was defending himself, and I support what he did. If they really wanted to see that violence stop, then they should have done something about it. But instead, they scream like children, waiting for some man to do it. And that's when shit gets real. And that's when the real value of men in this society becomes apparently clear. When shit gets hectic, when shit hits the fan, when, some real shit is going down, that's when it's only men that step in and stop it. But like I said before, our society is conditioning men to just not give a shit anymore, and I welcome it. I'm actually going to thank the feminists for that. I'm going to thank the feminists. I'm going to thank the feminists for creating an environment where men are so sick and tired of being expected to do this or that they have now rejected it, because it's given us freedom. It's given us an opportunity to look into the future and see a big, beautiful field of freedom. I often picture it like we're running through a field, and in this field, on either side, are thickets of bushes with berries on them. And these berries taste like freedom. And we've tasted these berries, and we don't want to go backwards in the trail. We want to go to that field where there's bush after bush after bush with these freedom berries. And we have tasted freedom. And that's the real aphrodisiac to men. Not a single pussy on planet Earth can compare to the sweet taste of freedom. It just cannot. That's the male aphrodisiac. That's why I talk so much about male sovereignty in my videos, because that's what it means. When you have tasted freedom, no woman can compete. It's just that simple. And then it becomes a situation where you will take along a woman maybe on your path towards that big, open, beautiful field of freedom. Maybe you'll allow a woman to join you. But if she decides to hinder your progress towards freedom, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to leave you in the dust, and I'm running at a sprint for freedom. And if you can't keep up, and if you can't, and if you're not doing anything to help us get there, then goodbye. And so, I know I just kind of went off on a tangent, but I guess this video is just a warning. Sovereignty in my videos, because that's what it means. When you have tasted freedom, no woman can compete. It's just that simple. And then it becomes a situation where you will take along a woman maybe on your path towards that big, open, beautiful field of freedom. Maybe you'll allow a woman to join you. But if she decides to hinder your progress towards freedom, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to leave you in the dust, and I'm running at a sprint for freedom. And if you can't keep up, and if you can't, and if you're not doing anything to help us get there, then goodbye. And so, I know I just kind of went off on a tangent, but I guess this video is just a warning to women that if you put your hands on men in anger or violence, that there are going to be more and more men that are going to react violently towards you. This isn't an advocation of violence in any way, because remember, I am making it very clear that men will only do this, or most men will only do this, will only react towards you in violence when you initiate the violence. So this is simple self-defense here. I know these comments that I'm making might be spun in a way to say that I advocate violence, because let's be honest, women have accused me on this channel of advocating anything from domestic violence to rape to murder to all types of things. I never do, but they twist my words around to reflect that anyway. So I guess this is just a little rant. I know my videos have just pretty much been me speaking into the microphone these last couple of videos, but I have a couple things I've been really trying to wrap my brain around and analyze, and so those will be coming soon. To all those listening to this, remember, like I said before, don't tolerate female hypocrisy, and chase your freedom and secure your male sovereignty. That's all I got to say about it.